Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Let's Build Something. Today we're actually going to be attacking something that's a personal tool of mine that I know other people will use or have an interest in using just from being part of a bunch of different programming subreddits and discords. There are a large community of people that stream live programming, and that's awesome. I hope one day to collaborate with these people just to make like some big awesome project we can all work on. There are some things, though, that when you're live streaming, especially programming, you have to be careful about. And one of them is when you have environment keys. So an environment key is any special API key. Like, let's say, for example, I need to use Google Maps in a website I'm building. Well, I might have a .env file in the code folder, somewhere in the whole repository. The problem is that what if someone's on my stream and like I upload these videos to YouTube. Feel free to check out the YouTube channel if you ever miss a stream or interested in a certain project. There's a problem where, let's say I accidentally click and open up that env file. Even if I'm using my testing keys, if they're not locked down, which a lot of people don't do, they can easily be stolen. Someone could just pause the video on YouTube or just screen cap on the stream, and those keys are gone. I have to roll them over. It's kind of a pain. And so what I thought we could do today is look at a current solution that exists and see how we can improve upon that. So what we can do right now is let's open up Atom. So for those of you who are uninitiated with Atom, Atom is my preferred text editor for programming literally anything. I just like Atom, and that's just my personal preference. A lot of people like Sublime, some people like VS Code. I particularly like Atom. Atom is a platform to write literally any kind of code in that is actually made by GitHub, and their claim, their tagline, whatever you want to call it, is hackable text editor for the 21st century. They really encourage that Atom is open source, be a part of the community, or help improve your favorite text editor. Well, that is what we're going to do today. So, for example, let's say we're going to start up, let's just open, like I've got a whole bunch of projects. Let's see if we can just open the Super Tab. Super Tab is just a Chrome extension. One day I'll probably do a stream on it. But either way, okay, here we go. Now we got a folder open. Let's add, this is just my desktop, let's add a .env file. So a .env file would typically be found in a project, and that would contain keys. Like I'd have here Google Maps API. And then I would have, some random letters. You can try and use this key. I can tell you that it's not going to work. So usually with these envs, the issue is that we typically don't want to show these keys live, even if they're test keys, for the reason I stated earlier, which is someone is going to find them and someone is going to steal them. And also, just a pro tip, if you use Git, never ever commit your .env files. You can use a .gitignore file. If you're unfamiliar with Git, just leave a suggestion in the suggestion box if you guys would like me to go over Git in the future. Either way, what we're going to do is I want to do stream censoring. So basically, let's say I'm streaming and we're building a huge project in the future. Let's say it's a Laravel project, or which is a PHP framework, a React project, literally any project that's going to require interfacing with an API. If that's the case, I want to open and be able to edit these env keys, but I don't want people who are watching the stream or the YouTube video, or maybe someone that's standing really close behind me, to be able to see these keys, because they could steal them. So what we're going to do is we're going to look around and see what's out there right now. We can go to Packages, Settings, and this is how you install literally anything you want. There's one package in particular that I want to focus on, and it is called Stream Protect. And you can see it's a plugin to prevent you from exposing your secret key files by accident, especially useful during live streams. It almost sounds like this project has already been completed before by someone else. Chenny Baby? Yeah, Chenny Baby. I don't know why the caps messed me up. Anyway, this extension, plugin, whatever you want to call it, package is what they refer to it in Atom. This does, in a way, almost what we want to do. So what this does is right now we have the package installed and it should be enabled. Let's see, where is it? Well, here we can go to, let's see if we just close it and open it up. Okay, so this is the package working. We can close it, don't save it. Okay, so the package right now is running, and this is someone else's package that we didn't develop. We're going to be developing something else. If you open a .env file, actually I can show you. If we go to the package itself, I'm sure it tells us what's censored. Here, we can uninstall this because we're going to be building that today. And we can go to settings, and so here we go. A file that's .secrets.env, that's the file we're testing with right now, secrets.yaml, secret token RB, like these are just some sample files, and we're probably just going to borrow these files just because, you know, why reinvent the wheel? So what happens is that this package, when you execute trying to open a .env file or any forbidden file, it says this is a sensitive file. Are you sure you want to open this right now? You can press hell no, or you can press yes. If we press yes, it opened the file. Oh, let's press hell no, my bad. If you press hell no, you can see that it actually got rid of the text that was on the tab in the env file, but we also lose our ability to edit the key. So even if I wanted to edit it, this is kind of a problem, and it says the original content's obscured. If I wanted to edit this file, I'd have to bring it to a different window that y'all can't see, you know, just that kind of stuff. So what I really want to do actually today is I want to build something a little bit more practical. Let's say we open this. Let's go to where is file packages. Let's uninstall that package just so we can not have this interfering with us while we build. Stream protect. We're going to uninstall this. Okay. And that should be it. We should be all good now. Yeah, okay. We shouldn't have to deal with it now. So, do I have to probably refresh the page, stop it from running? Let's hope it does. Okay, yeah. Okay, so now we can just open our files. We're back to where we were. What I want to do is something like this. So one thing that not a lot of people know, or maybe it's something that's not so obvious with the Atom editor, and the reason I like it so much because it's so easy to build on, is that it's almost like a website. If we were to press Control-Shift-I right now, anybody recognize this window? It looks like the Chrome element inspector, and that's because Atom is actually built on Chromium, and it is what they call an electron application. An electron is essentially a wrapper for web applications that you can run on the desktop. And so it comes with a lot of unique advantages doing that. But either way, if you want to edit something, you can actually just hit the raw HTML, because even all of our text right here is actually HTML. We can go to inspect it, and it's all pretty much follows like a markup language. You can see we have divs, and we also have special tags called Atom Text Editor. What I'm looking to do though is I pretty much want to take any tabs that are sensitive files, and whether they're already open or I'm just about to open them, we want to be able to blur these files to where you guys on Twitch or people watching on YouTube can't see what I'm typing, but I can edit them without fear of people stealing the key. So what we might want to do is apply a CSS filter, well, it's a CSS property called filter to the Atom Text Editor class, and the one that I want to use particularly is called blur. Let's give it a value of 2 pixels right here. And as you can see, the result is something that you might be able to decipher. Let's bump that up. In fact, actually, while we're doing this, couldn't have the channel seen, so I can see in case anybody wants to say anything. Okay, there we go. Now I've got the chat open. So I'm not sure if you guys can clearly decipher the text that is hidden right here. Well, let's decide just to bump this up to maybe 3. Okay, 3 is definitely going to become illegible for someone viewing the stream or watching the YouTube video of this recorded later. So what we want to do is I want to make it to where I can toggle the ability to turn on and off this filter, and also probably modify the levels of filter, because while I'm comfortable with 3 pixels, some people program really zoomed in, and you can see how this blur kind of falls apart at a lower pixel rating. I might want to bump this up if I have a really zoomed in text of, let's try 8. Yeah, see, so the larger your text, the more blur you need, because you know you need to blur it more. It's I actually think, if anyone's familiar with Photoshop in here, I think it's actually a Gaussian blur. You'll know what I'm talking about. And if you don't, well, then it doesn't really matter. It's blurred. So what we want to do is we're actually going to, I'm going to press Control-Shift F5. That reloads the Atom editor, just so everybody knows that, because I'm going to be doing that probably a lot in this tutorial. And we're going to have a sample env key, that file that we're going to have a fake letter in, a fake key in. And basically we're going to see if we can make a package that I can toggle on and off that blurs this entire page, but I can still see where I'm typing. So what you can do to actually create a package in Atom, let me close this window, is if you press, I believe it is Control Space or Space, let's see. There's a way to do it. Packages, let's see. Okay, here it is, package generator. I forgot what the, it's Control P or Shift P. Let me get the right key binding right. Let's see. Okay, Alt P. Let's. I'm sorry about this. Hold on, I didn't research key bindings. Okay, Control Shift P in Atom is how you can start generating a package. You can do package generator, generate package. Clicking this is going to create a really, really basic framework for making any kind of extension in Atom. And this is only for Atom. This wouldn't apply to Sublime or VS Code or anything like that. This is just an extension that I use because I use Atom, and other streamers out there who also program are probably going to find great use in this, especially those who are learning who later want to stream and show others how to do things and have to edit environmental keys. So we're going to click this, and it's going to ask us what the name of our package is. We're going to call it Stream Censor. And we just give it a second, and you'll see it opened up a window. We've got the stream sensor window, so what we'll do is we'll put these side by side and probably shrink this a little bit. This won't be that important for now. So you can see that automatically we created a package, and we can actually find the package by going to stream sensor, and there's a toggle, and we'll get into that, but the package is already available because I created it using the package manager. So there's a couple files and folders that everybody should know about that are just bare bones. These were automatically generated. I didn't create these. I just ran a command. There's a git ignore because Atom is linked to GitHub, and if we have, and you know, we're going to commit this later to a public repository. So some folders that we want to omit: node modules. Anybody that uses npm, which is pretty much anybody that is programming in JavaScript, you're going to have a node modules folder, and it's likely going to contain literally all of the space available on your computer, because installing literally any npm module creates a huge, massive folder because it's dependency on dependency on dependency. So there's also npm log debug.log. This is just a log file, in DS stores for when anybody saves something on a Mac. You bring it to a Windows, it'll keep a DS store file. These are all files we don't want to commit. Everything else is going to be actually pretty functional. We have a just change log. This is just, you know, templated change log. We have a license, probably just just a regular as-is license, not even, I don't think the MIT license. Then we have our package JSON. So this is actually where we describe our package. You can see that we have a repository that we're going to have to add when we later commit this code. And we also have Atom versions. So we're looking to hit anything greater than version 1, but less than version 2. We can actually go ahead and put an asterisk here, because the package that we're going to make is actually going to be able to work on any version of Atom, because it's just going to be native vanilla JS with no dependencies. So we're actually going to be building something that'll work, you know, for now until they decide to push a breaking change to Atom that just no one could expect. So right here, we're going to keep the name stream sensor, and we're going to do censor env, or just censor secret key files. And for keywords, you know, you can fill this out. It really just helps people find your package on Atom when you later deploy it, because actually what we're going to do is take this whole package when it's working and actually deploy it to Atom. And it'll be available for everyone to download, much like you would do with the Chrome extension. So let's start at the top about all these files that are in folders. So we have a folder called key maps, and inside is a streamsensor.json. So key maps allows us to automatically link a key binding to a function that we can call. So this is calling our package stream sensor with the function of toggle. We have to press Control-Alt-O to trigger it. This is our library. This is pretty much where all the magic happens. And you can see actually what we do is there's actually little bit of JavaScript here. This is all going to be JavaScript, this whole project. It's JavaScript and less, which is essentially CSS. So right here, you can see they start with a constructor class that makes the view that our entire package is going to live in. And you can see that when we execute this package, it looks like it's going to mount our view, and it's going to create a message, will create a div element, and inside it should say stream sensor package is alive, it's alive. It's going to add that message to, it's going to add the message class to the div element that has this content, and then it's going to append that child to the stream sensor view. And then if we ever close the page or refresh the page or anything like that, we're actually going to destroy the element so it doesn't stick around. And then right here is actually the functions that all get called. You can see we start with some initial properties. Looks like there's a modal panel, subscriptions, stream sensor view. This is our actual view. And you can see we call activate. We get a modal panel, which is equal to adding. So this is where we're going to add the modal panel that's going to display that message that we specified in streamsensorview.js. And then our default state is going to be not visible. Obviously, we see that from visible being equal to false. And then this subscriptions is actually, this is automatically generated by Atom. It's probably best not to remove this line. And basically events, any event that we subscribe to in the Atom API, when we get rid of this app or close Atom or do anything like that, we're going to unsubscribe from those events because we don't want to keep subscribing with our package over and over. And what we're going to do right here is where we register any commands. This says register command that toggles a view. But right here we can register any kind of command that we want to do something. And we'll get into that when we get into the menus JSON file. But right here you can see this key binding calls stream sensor toggle, and that function is defined here to where if we call stream sensor toggle, we're going to actually return this .toggle, which toggle is a function down here that outputs a console log saying stream sensor was toggled and shows the modal or hides it. It toggles it depending on the current visible state of what the modal is in. Then if we, once again, you have another teardown to where you destroy the modal, get rid of the subscriptions, and destroy the view. And that is pretty much just the gist of what this current state is going to do. And we can execute it right now, actually, just to show everybody what it does. And if we press Control-Alt-O, it should see. So here it is. You can hardly see it. It says the stream sensor package is alive. It's alive. And if we want to toggle the modal, which is displaying, this is the modal right here, we press Control-Alt-O again, it goes away. So we'll just do this. We'll just flip-flop them. Okay. The next thing is the menus. So there are two menus in Atom and most IDEs. There is this package menu, which we can go to the name of our package, and there's a toggle class. There's a label here called toggle. There's also context menu. Context menu is when you right click. You can see there's toggle stream sensor, Alt Control O. So what we can do is we can actually change our context menu title. This is the command. It's going to execute the toggle command, which we saw from this file, is going to toggle the showing of that modal. And then also we have down here the label of our package as it appears in the actual menu right here, and the command that can appear. So let's see. And the command that when we click the submenu item that gets executed, which is the same as this command, which is also the same as pressing Control-Alt-O. This toggle command is pretty useful, and we're probably actually going to build off of it because we need to be able to toggle our function. So what we can do is we can save this. We can bring up the other menu, which is right here, and let's get these guys back where they need to be. Okay. And what we can do is if we press, let's see, Control-Shift-F5, it's going to refresh the window. It just does that. If we go here, you can see the edits we made, toggle stream sensor, and clicking this button will do this, and also hitting the context menu, which we can't because this modal is taking up our whole view. If we press Alt-Control-O, it'll untoggle it, and you can just keep pressing Control-Alt-O and that will toggle the modal. So what we want to do is instead of wanting to toggle a modal, we actually want to blur the menu item. And the way to do that is actually, let's just get prepared to work on it. So let's work on, we're going to need to first, if we're going to be doing this, we're going to actually need to look at the Atom API. So let's open up a new Chrome window, one that isn't a microscopic element. We can go to atom.io. They should have some documentation. And there's one thing that I really want to look at, and it's called config. And so config is where we can put, it's essentially our env file or our static settings file. Well, it's actually not static because you can definitely edit it depending on user input. But there's Atom environment config, and with config, there is a lot of stuff that you can reach. We get a config instance. So here you can call Atom, which is a global object that can be called anywhere in the package because you're working inside the Atom environment and they allow that to be a global variable. So you can call Atom config get my package, which would be stream sensor in our case, and then my key, and that'll return some type of value. So what we can do is actually we can look at seeing how a config key fits into our main package. You can see that they define a config option, they give it some variable name, they specify what type it is, a default, and in this case a minimum, but you can also see, you can have a boolean and false, you can have minimums and maximums, you can have, let's see, there's also one other type, an array. You can have an array of selectable values. You can also have an enum, which would mean that our default value is 4, but if you go to the settings view of our package, you can select 2, 4, 6, 8. These are just values that they're putting in here. You can also have them be doing, you can also pass entire objects in with values. So it's all depending on what you're trying to do with your package, but what we're trying to do is actually just toggle the entire state of our application. So we're actually going to do config, and this will be an object, and in this object, which speaking of which, if you'll notice this export default, it's exporting an entire object. So everything that we type in has to have commas after it, like this activate function, deactivate, you'll notice they all have commas after them. So anything we do, we have to end in a comma, except for the last item. You're not required to do that. So we're going to have to put a comma here, and you'll notice because activate turns blue that we did something right. So what we'll do is we are going to have a class called just is enabled, and this is going to be a Boolean object, and our default value is probably going to be false because when Atom starts up, all packages are what they call lazy loaded into the environment, and if we automatically have our value be true, it'll immediately start blurring env files, which if I'm not streaming, I want to be able to see them without feeling like I have glaucoma. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to specify a false value for this, and we can do an enum here to provide true false options in case anyone wants to be able to start this in a different setting. There's really not a reason why we would allow the user to do that, but it's okay. I think we'll be all right. The next thing is, we're gonna these are spec files. This is for testing our app. Our app is going to be so simple. We're honestly not even going to run tests on it. So sorry if anybody was here looking for testing. What I actually want to do is, because we were talking about levels of blur and different types of blur, we actually probably want to have 3 classes available: low, medium, and high. And what we want to do is just specify different levels of blur. So this is just CSS. So we'll do blur, and I guess for this we'll do 2.5 pix, or let's do 2.5. And for medium, we can do, let's see, for medium, let's do a solid 4, and then for high, let's just do 8. Let's just go crazy with it, because you're not going to be able to see anything at any size with a blur of 8. So yeah, okay, so we got our 3 classes available. So what we probably want to do in our config is probably have a blur class object, and blur class is actually going to be the selected class that they are looking to blur at. So their selected level, they're going to default to low, and we're going to have it to where if they click increase, it goes to the next object in the array, which will be medium, and then it goes to high. And if you're already at the top, we'll just tell them, hey, you're already maxed out on blur, and then decrease from there. So let's just get started. It's probably the easiest way to show it. So we're going to have something called blur class, and this, as I said, is a type, and it's going to be a string. And actually, what we're defaulting here is the name of the actual class that we're trying to apply, which is in the stream sensor class. So our default without the period, is going to be stream sensor low. And what we want to do is provide them options, because if they want their default to be medium, then we should definitely give them that option. So what we'll do is and single quotes, double quotes right here really doesn't matter. It doesn't affect anything at all because we're not trying to do any kind of string templating or really anything like that. So we're just literally specifying strings. Single quote strings, double quote strings in this kind of context is totally fine. So the next one is, let's see, what else are we going to need? We have the current blur class. We're also going to want to make available the total classes that are available. We want to, this provides a list, but we're not going to be able to access every single option unless we know them. And let's say we want to add the ultra high list later. Well, I can add it in here, and I can add it in here, and we want to make sure that our code is scalable no matter what. But yeah, let's just make sure that the whole class list is available. So we'll call it the blur class list, and what we'll do is this will be an array. If you read the Atom API documentation, it actually doesn't say anywhere that what types are available, which is kind of annoying. But I can tell you that the only one that it seems that isn't available is function. You cannot have a function inside of this object. Kind of annoying, but that's just what I've discovered. And we're going to have some defaults here, and the defaults are literally going to be the same actually as these. So this is just going to give us the entire list. It's not going to be it's not going to be changeable unless I change the code and then push that up. And now, really, the bread and butter of our how do you spell sensitive? SENSITIV, sensitive files. Okay, this is actually going to be where we do where pretty much we specify what files are getting blurred, and this is going to be an array. And that should probably be a semicolon. And we actually are just going to have a default. And people can edit this in the settings file. I'll show you what that all looks like. But we know for a fact we want env to be a special file. And actually, I have a list on a notepad in the other screen of that of the other package that we looked at the beginning of the stream. These are all the files that are in it: secrets, .secrets.secret, env, secrets, YAML. These are all. This is for WordPress. I don't know who's developing WordPress with Atom, but people might be. And so there we go. That's pretty much it. And I think that should be all we need for this. I think we need to also specify each item in the array is a string. I don't think that's actually required because we say the type is array. We should be all right. We'll see, because it'll definitely give us a problem if that becomes an issue. So the first thing we want to do is we want to get rid of this modal business, because this modal panel stuff we're not keeping. It's not going to be a thing on ours, so we can just start hacking away at code, getting rid of stuff that we don't need. We're going to keep the toggle function. We're not going to be destroying a modal panel because we're no longer creating one. And toggle can just be an empty function right now that can just do console log stream sensor was toggled. So there we go. And you can actually see that here in the console when I was turning on and off stream sensor earlier. You can see that we were already doing that. So anyway, let's see. We can next. I guess the next thing to do is just figure out how to turn off and on our thing. We're not doing anything important yet, but we're gonna need to eventually you know, that's probably the primary thing we need to do, because the last thing we want to do is be censoring env files for people, because this is going to be a package that other people are going to use and build on, and the last thing we want to do is be bothering them with our package by blurring their files. So let's enable or start our stream sensor, and you can toggle it, and you can see stream sensor was toggled. We can also press Control-Alt-O, which defined here also calls toggle. So let's go to this screen, Control-Alt-O. Look at that, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we just called it 11, 12 times if you want to count that in a row, because the only thing we're doing is this. So think about what we're doing right now. We just want to turn on and off whatever our function is going to do. We're going to check before we do any kind of blurring or anything like that if our package is even active. If it's not active, don't go ahead and blur anything, even if they press the key binding, because we don't want to, like I said, be blurring files that people don't want blurred when the package isn't enabled. This shouldn't be a package that is applied all the time. People don't stream while they code every single time they code. So what we want to do is we want to be able to have this be something that they can just flip on like a light switch and automatically work. So what we want to do is probably get the current setting of our package, which we know when we first boot up will be false. But if they press the key binding again, we need to actually change the default value. It's not really changing the default value, but we're changing the setting for this user for that instance to true, and if it's true, turn to false, and if it's false, turn to true. Bing, 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 keep going back and forth. We only have 2 options, so it's actually pretty easy to toggle that value, and I'm not going to sit here and say that everything that I write is going to be the best way to do it. I would never say that. I would never say something like that, but this is a way to do it, and if it doesn't make sense, let me know, and I'll explain further about why I did what I did. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the current setting, and it's going to be equal to that Atom object. We're going to get the config right there, and then we want to do a get, and we want to specify stream sensor, which is the name of our file root package, which is what's important here, and we want to get is enabled. And what we want to do is we actually want to check then if we actually want to set this value, this is enabled, to the new value. So we can just do it actually in one line, because it's really not important to save that value to a new variable, because we're not going to use it, and this is pretty much the end of the toggle function. We're going to set it, and it's going to be called stream. It's actually this same key. And what you can do actually here, let's pull up the docs. If we go back to document, oh, this is why I typed it in wrong. Let's go to documentation, go to the API reference, go to config, and here we go, set. So it seems that the way that you set variables is atom config set package name dot key, and then you just specify the value. And if it's a boolean, it should be true false. If it's a string, it should be a string. You know, whatever you said this value is supposed to be, it better be that, because if you try to throw a string into here, it's not going to make any sense. Like if we tried to change the default blur class list to just a single class, that's going to probably throw an error, and we're probably going to actually do that on accident anyway, so we'll see what happens. But what we want to do is we want to actually just want to set the value to the opposite, so exclamation point, of the current setting. So whatever the current setting is, set it to the opposite and save that to the is enabled key, and that is going to determine if our setting is enabled. And actually what we may want to do is probably just see if our package is enabled, and this will just be a local function that we can use, and we'll just call it like package status. And what we can do is just return, what the heck did I just spell? Return atom, actually, just return this. It's really all we want to do. And we can use this in conditional statements, and the only reason to do this is because we've already established that from the very beginning we are going to need to return these we're going to need to know if our package is enabled or not, because if it's not enabled and we try to run any other command, we should exit out first thing. First thing we should check is if this guy's enabled, because if it's not enabled, don't even bother wasting the CPU time with our code. Just literally exit out. We don't need anything else from you. So I guess that's pretty much it. What we want to do right now is, if we're toggling, probably the next thing we want to do is probably register a command or a function at least that is going to just, you know, blur the stuff we did. So there's actually something, a function that I'm sure hooks into, actually we can go back to the config object. And so look, an instance of this class is always available as the Atom config global. So there's where it says that. There's value coercion. Yeah, and that's what I was talking about earlier. Whereas if you specified an int, but you passed a string of 1, 2, 3, it'll automatically change the string of 1, 2, 3 to an integer of 1, 2, 3. But we're not going to try and pass wrong things to the wrong configs. Let's see. So there's an on-did change. That might be useful because we're going to want to know if our package is enabled. Because think about it. Let's say someone has env open already, like this guy, and we enable our package. We should blur it right from the get-go. We shouldn't have to wait for them to close it and reopen it in order for it to blur like the other package did. We gotta do it right there because they need that stuff blurred now. Like they just pretty much took off their pants during live television, and we need to make sure that they're covered up. That's pretty much what we're doing here, really. So, I mean, maybe, and not so many words, but let's see. So let's look more at the documentation. I think I have 2 of them open actually. I do. Okay, that's kind of annoying. Anyway, so we have the config here, and what we're looking for. So Atom is actually organized into workspaces, and again, you have a global variable available to you, atom.workspace, and actually, all of the stuff that's available to you. Here, let's pop. Well, we can actually probably pop this window out just to get a better view. Here we go. That popped on the other screen. Okay, so this window is tied to this editor, and if I type in the Atom variable, you can see all of these things are available. We got grammars, history, key maps. This is where we can get our key maps, our menu, notifications. That'll be nice. We can tell people that our app's enabled or disabled. That'd be useful to know. It's feedback. Workspace. This is one we're probably going to be working with a lot because a workspace is this entire window. This whole instance of Atom is a workspace. And so with the workspace, if we just return this, you can see we have in this area, we have a workspace has an ID of 2 because I have 2 editors open. But then look at all these properties a workspace has. They have, did change active pane item on pane container. Like these things are very descriptive. That's pretty nice. It's good. It's a good API construction. So we've got package manager, style manager, got all this stuff. We should probably just look at the API and see what it has to say. So I'm gonna bring this back over here, and let's go to workspaces. And oh, look at that, you can get the title. That's going to be useful to know, because how are we going to know if the file that we have open is sensitive or not? We can just get the title. That's kind of nice. So let's see, we've got observe. These are event subscriptions. So that earlier when we talked about subscriptions in this one, in subscriptions, this is where we start subscriptions. This is where we, this is actually how we destroy subscriptions. This is how we start subscriptions. We can actually delete this comment, it's not useful anymore. And so you can see we're adding them to the Atom workspace, and this is a command, and it does toggling. And we already know how that works. We've tested that one a lot. But there's an event that we can actually subscribe to that already exists, and this actually on did open. Let's see what that's all about. Invoke the given callback, the function. Whenever an item is opened, unlike did add pane, observers will be notified items that are already present in a workspace when they are reopened. So that's awesome. So if we have env open and then we click it again, it should blur it. It should blur it because it's gotten reopened. If we close the file and then reopen it, it should call this function as did add pane item won't actually always get called. So you can see that we have a callback, which is a function. We get an event, which is an object with the following keys: URI, representing the open URI, and it can be undefined, I guess, if you opened a null file. Item is the opened item. pane is the pane, which was opened, and the index, which is the index of the opened item on the pane. And then we can call dispose to get rid of the subscription if we don't want to be listening for it all the time. This is a one-off thing that we're looking for, and it only needs to happen once per pretty much Atom instance. Then here is where we could call dispose and trash the entire thing. But what we need it actually to stick around. So what we want to do is in this activate state is where we want to attach handlers, much like you would attach a .click function. If you're familiar with jQuery, where you would find an object in your DOM and then you do .click and it would run an event, or if you're familiar with maybe forms in HTML, you can do onClick or onSubmit, those kind of tags. This is pretty much what we're doing. When the page loads, I want to use JavaScript to attach a listener to a certain kind of event, and when that event fires and it bubbles up into the actual into the actual event object and it occurs, I want to be able to do something with that event, interact with it, whatever, and run some type of function. So what we actually want to look like, we want to do is probably just do Atom Workspace, which we know is a global variable, and then we want to do on, oh look at that, we've already got type ahead for this because we're in Atom, and I suppose they encourage you programming on it, but we're looking for on did open right there. Okay, look at that, we got a callback. What we're going to do is we're actually going to do an arrow function, so we know there's an object that gets called that's an event, and you can do this. There we go. So what we want to do is, like I said earlier, we want to do if this dot package status is, I believe, the name of that function. Calling this on the on this context, which I know might be confusing, means referencing the function down here. So I could call this dot toggle like they did here, and that references this function. This dot package status renders this, and it's going to return a Boolean true false value right here. So what we want to do is, if this package is not enabled, you can also be a little bit more verbose about it and do not equal to true, but that's a little bit it's just bad form, bad practice. So you would probably want to do just not this package status, which means basically if this statement, if this guy is false, then this statement becomes true. And what we want to do is just return true. And what this return true does is, when the workspace is open, if our package is not enabled, well, then just get out of just don't get out of this event. Just get rid of it, because we don't need to do anything at all. And actually, while we're here talking about like if our package is on or if it's not, one thing that we actually might want to work with is actually let's just monitor this variable. This stream sensor is enabled, because right now it is a complete mystery on this screen if my package is enabled or not. We have literally no idea. We never received any notification or context or message or nothing. We have no idea. Literally the only way to know is to just close and open EMV files and wait for one of them to get blurred. We have no idea if it's on. So, and even if we call Control-Alt-O, yeah, let me bring up the IDE, wherever it is. Oh, is it? Oh, window. Where the heck did it go? Let's see. It's somewhere around here. There. Hi? I'm looking for it all on my desktop right now. Okay, well. Anyway. Let's get rid of that. And Control-Shift-I. There it is. Okay. I don't know why that. Okay. You know what we're gonna do to avoid that problem again? We're gonna dock it. Meant to dock right. Okay. So there we go. That was confusing for a moment. Anyway. So what we want to do is, if we press Control-Alt-O, the only thing we actually don't even get anything, because we're not even console logging our toggle. So we have literally no feedback right now. So what we want to do is actually, if we go open back up that documentation and we go back to config, we saw that there were some functions we could call. We were going over it earlier. This one, more importantly, on did change. Works the same way as on did open for the workspace, but this time we're actually calling it on a different context. We're calling it Atom config. So we can go to here, and we'll just add it up here. Atom config on did change. Look at that, it's already got us, and it wants to know what key path we are looking to look for, which, if anybody's been paying attention, you will know that we are looking for stream sensor. Where is it? This guy. We're looking for this key. So we're already talking about the config on did change, so you don't actually need to return this atom get config. Yeah, don't even need to. You just toss a string in there. And what we want to do is let's see what the options are. What the heck are the options that it's talking about? Let's go to that. Okay, so options are the scope. We don't have to worry about the scope, but we do have to worry about the callback, because we get a new value and an old value. So we can actually just kind of grab those right out of the gate. We don't have options, so you can just leave that null. And our callback is going to be a function. Do another arrow function. And we know that the two objects that get returned, what we get returned here is an event. An event dot, what was it? Event dot new value and dot old value. So what we can actually do right here is like a pretty fancy thing in JavaScript, where if you know the object that's getting returned, if you know its keys, you can actually return the keys as variables by just specifying the key name like that. So what we've got going on in there is awesome, and we know that if right now this is actually going to give us whatever the new value and the old value of is enabled is anytime we pretty much run the toggle function, because that's the only thing that changes our actual status. So what we can actually do right here is just say if new value, which means if new value is true, because if the new value is false, this isn't going to run because I don't have a not in front of it. So this will just be if the new value is true, we want to send a notification or something. We just want to tell them that, hey, like, package is alive, so just in case things get blurred, you should know. And we probably want to do, I think we were looking earlier at notifications. Didn't that exist? Notification. And you can do get type. Let's see some extended methods. It's got to be a way to call one. Let's see. Is there like notification down here? Notification manager. Get message, get type, on display, on dismiss. Is it an emitter? No, it's definitely not an emitter. I know I've seen this before. Let's see. Atom notification. Notification manager. Oh, here you go. Adding notifications. Add success, add info. I don't know why. Where was that before? Anyway, you can also get all the notifications. That's kind of cool. But you can do add success, where you can, I guess, just send a message. And you got options where if you want it to be dismissible or not. Different is whether this is be dismissed by the user. And then an icon. That's cool. So a string name in an icon from octa icons, which is, I guess, a certain icon set. Let's see what octa icons is. That might be cool. We could add a little cool icon. Oh, look at that. Well, ain't that cool? Oh, let's do a little key, I think. Or no, an eye might be better. But we're hiding the eye, so we're hiding it, so it should be actually like a closed eye. We're spending a lot of time right now determining if if we should say I want to do a key, and then maybe whenever we disable it, we can do an eye. So what's this guy called? Octo icon eye. Okay, so we know the name of that, and we got this one, which is octo icon key. Okay, so it's pretty much just like any other font library, and I'm guessing they're already downloaded. So how do we do that? We just specify it as an option. Icon. Okay, cool. Let's do that. I mean, shit, that's gonna be cool. Here we go. So if new value, we want to do atom.notifications.add. Oh, look, it says it right there. So we probably want to add an info because it's not really a success message, and we can do stream. Let's not yell at them. Stream sensor is now enabled. Not enabled. That would be confusing. Okay, is now enabled, and then for the options, we know that we can pass in a little object and say item. I think, was it item? No, icon. Options icon. That's what it was. And let's see if we can do octo icon key, right? And we can just take this and put it here, and stream sensor is now disabled. And let's do I. Let's see how that works. Let's bring back up our package. We're gonna have to refresh the page. There we go. Oh hey, it didn't resize this time. That's kind of nice. And let's do Control Alt O. Stream sensor is now enabled, but our icon is missing. What the heck? Where's our icon? A string name of an icon from octo. Oh, I spelled it wrong. Octi. It's octi, not octo. There it is. It's probably lowercase o. I don't think it matters, but better be safe. Sorry. Okay. And also, because we reset it, our value should be false, because every time we refresh or reload the page, it pretty much resets Atom, and our default value on load, when we load in this package, is false. So it should just say enabled again. Oh, well, that didn't work. That's something to look into then. Let's see. Yeah, our things aren't appearing. That's annoying. How the heck do you specify a value? Sorry, but this is critical. Do we not read the documentation right? It's an object with the following keys, and there should be one for icon. Defaults to info. Oh, it's not octicon dash whatever. It's literally just the key, and it assumes. Oh, I just opened up another Atom window. And it automatic. Okay, all right. Well, that means that if we go down here and just get rid of this, it should work. And we can open up this and Control F5, and we should get icons now, regardless of whatever the state is. Yeah, look at that. We got an I and a key. I key. Here we go. IKEA. All right. Close all of them. We don't need that. Okay. Cool. So now we've got notifications working. That's pretty nice. See, I know there's a way. Let me look in here. Right here, we go to developer. Okay, we can reload the window with Control Shift F5, which is what I've been doing. But I guess that's the only option we have. Okay, I didn't know if maybe there was like a not hard refresh, but okay. So we got disabled, enabled, disabled, enabled. Okay, cool. So what we want to do now is actually, let me test something here. Toggle stream sensor, disabled, enabled. Okay, cool. Yeah, everything seems to work. All the context menus call the same function. We're all good to go. Give me one moment. I'm gonna take a sip of water. That. Anyway, I didn't want anybody to hear that. Hold on. I don't know what y'all are listening to on the background, but let me see. I got some cool music that we can all listen to. Here we go. This guy, if anybody has ever seen his content, it is freaking amazing. I don't know why I'm not subscribed to him. I listen to his stuff all the time. He does guitar covers of really popular songs, and he's amazing. Good stuff to listen to in the background. Okay, anyway, enough of that sidebar. I'm totally not sponsored by him, by the way, but his stuff's good. So let's see. Where were we actually? Let's see. So we've got notifications happening. We need to get back on the wagon and actually start doing our evaluation of open tabs, closed tabs, tabs that open, anything like that. We don't even have a function actually right now, but this is where we would blur stuff if we had one, if we had stuff to blur. Insert Dinkelberg meme there. I'm sure that comment will age well. Anyway, what we can do is actually, let's just make this a function, because if we're going to define it here, and every time we change our, well, not this is just for notifications, but let's say every time we toggle, we're also going to want to evaluate. So instead of writing the same code twice, we're going to actually practice a simple paradigm called dry, which is don't repeat yourself. And that is pretty much the easy, it's actually one of the harder principles to abide by in programming, because it's really easy to write code that is really, really similar across your entire code base when you could just condense it into one generic function and pass in some optional parameters that then change the output of the function to whatever you need it to be. Don't get too crazy though, and define your entire function and define your entire code base in one function that has 50,000 parameters, because that is the opposite of dry, where it violates another principle called KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. So, so those are two things that you really want to abide by: dry and KISS. And a dry KISS is unpleasant, but it's a good way to program. So, what you want to do here is we want to blur stuff. So let's say this, and we're going to do evaluate tabs, and this is again just a function. We're going to actually hit it up down here, and this is our meat and potatoes right here. If you are vegan, I'm sorry for that reference. I'm also sorry for your choices, but I'm sure they're good ones. Anyway, what we need to do is we actually need to do two things with evaluate tabs. This function is going to blur active tabs and big and it is going to blur any upcoming tabs, really, because it's what we're gonna do is we're just gonna blur any active tabs, because onDidOpen calls this function and it will actually apply this function before the window opens. So we actually should be good. We'll see how that actually works out in practice, because I'm not exactly sure if that. I'm thinking about that now logically, and I'm not sure if that's going to work. But either way, I can tell you what we're working with for sure, and it's going to be that workspace again, because this is a workspace, and we need to know what just opened, what is the name of it. Each one of these objects that I open, let's open, look at this file, it's not going to read well, but this object right here, it's just STL, it's not going to parse. But this is that just called onDidOpen, and additionally added what we call a text editor. This is a text editor, this is a text editor. So the way that the hierarchy works, which actually, let's just consult the documentation. Do they have a way that they describe the kind of architecture? Let's see. There should be. Okay, so actually they probably go through it this way. Panes, items, hacking atom, the init file. Okay, I wish there was an easier way that they describe this, but from my understanding, and I could be wrong if someone's working on Atom and watching my videos, that you have a workspace, and in a workspace you have a gutter, which is where these numbers are, okay, and you also have a pane. This is a pane, okay, maybe a pain in your butt, but it's a pane. And then it's actually a pane container, and inside you have a pane, and in a pane you have text editors, and text editors have something inside of them, but I'm sure it's a text buffer. That's what it is. It's a text buffer. So actually there's panels too. You see there's a whole thing here. We've got the workspace. The workspace has pane containers. Pane container has a pane has a panel has a text editor has a text buffer. Okay, it's something like that. Either way, you can understand that there is kind of a object hierarchy in this whole deal. So what we can do is we're going to be calling evaluate tabs, and this is going to only happen right now when we open a new function. I mean a new window, I'm sorry. So even though we execute it right here, it's not going to blur what we have up already. But what we need to do is we need to do atom workspace, and actually I don't even know what the freaking function is called. So before we get too overzealous, workspace, we are looking for text editors. Here's get active text editors, but we want to actually be able to get all of them. This will get us our active text editors. Is there like another? Oh, observe. Okay, so what's the difference between observe? Okay, this is given callback with all current and future text editors, and this one is the only ones that are active, and it actually only applies to the text editor that we're focused on. So we actually want to apply our function on any text editors that are open now until we turn off our package for good. And what we get is we have to get a callback function, and in it we are given an object of an editor, and it's actually an instance of text editor. So we'll have to go to that. But let's first call our, oh look, here we can just pretty much take this function right here. It's actually written in looks like CoffeeScript, but we're going to change that to just regular vanilla JS. So instead of single arrow function, we have two double arrows, and then we're going to call that, and we got to close our package. Okay, there we go. So now we are going to get an editor object, and if we do console log editor, and so what we should do is that if we enable our package and reopen env, we should get something here. So let's refresh this page, and let's close our env. And let's start up our package. Oh, we disabled it, my bad. Okay, so now it's enabled. If we open up our env, you can see we got a text editor here. So that's kind of cool. Let's see. And yeah, we can go and disable it here. So we got all of our controls. But you can see this object right here, this text editor object. It also, it has a buffer, it has component, and that gives us a text buffer. We can get a text editor component. I mean, we can get anything out of this guy. Also, if you were trying to build something really scary, you could have it to where if you had this package, you could probably read the buffer and give you the entire text and send that text to a remote API and cache everyone's env files. But we are not bad people, and we will not be doing that. And I just gave some bad people some bad ideas, but that's okay, because in order to post your package on GitHub, it has to be open source, and if it's open source and you're trying to do something shady, like send env files to a remote API endpoint, no one is going to download your package, and it'll probably get flagged and get removed. So, don't be a bad person. Anyway, we've got this editor object, and we know that it's an editor object, but let's see what we can do with the editor object, because I don't. It's a text editor. So we can get on did change title. That's cool. Get buffer. Oh look, get title. I can tell you right now that we're going to need that. Get long title is the unique title in the UI. Okay, so if we have two env files open across two different directories, it'll be env directory 1, and then it'll be another tab called env directory 2. We don't really care what the title is. We just want to know, does it contain a sensitive file that matches our file type list? So we're actually going to get the file name right now, and we can just set it as a const because we're not going to be changing this value because we just need it to read. We'll just call it file name. Yeah, that's what it is. And we'll do editor dot get title. Okay, cool. We also need to load in right now our sensitive file names. So we're going to do sensitive files. I mean, I guess it's technically sensitive file names because we're actually going to get the entire array, and that's going to be atom config, and we're going to do another get, and we're going to do stream sensor, and we want to get sensitive files, which is the name again of this key of the config options. So it's going to return to us this entire array. All right. And then what we want to do is, I guess, one of the first things we want to do is probably, if we do evaluate tabs, let's do if this dot package status is false. We want to return true, because we don't want to do anything again, we don't want to do a damn thing. Don't spend any time evaluating anything, saving any kind of variables, because if our package is turned off, it really doesn't matter. And so what we want to do now is pretty much just see if our file name is in the array of this. So actually, there's one easy way to kind of go about doing this, which is kind of nice. We can actually just copy this array, and we'll just call it file list. And you can see I'm working just in the console over here, which we can just type any kind of arbitrary JavaScript in. And so I'm going to call this file list. And you can see it returns back our thing. And let's say we have a string, which is going to be our title. And we call it .env. I'm just assigning it what I know as a value. If we do, if the file list includes the title, it'll be true. And if we have a string that doesn't apply, like not a secret, like some file that looks like that or is named that, then we'll know that the value is false. And so if someone has a value that's named ftp config, that's .ftp config. That'll get found. Secret YAML, env, secret, all that stuff, .secret, all this stuff. So we're really just going to use a single function to execute pretty much the entirety of our script. And the way we can do that is, since we already have the file list available to us, we can just do if sensitive file names includes I think what file name, yeah. And you know what, we cannot do spaces in here. Some people do spaces like this. This is kind of the way I prefer it, as I say that when I don't space out my stuff. Okay, so if the sensitive files let's see, I'm trying to think of a way to do this right now. This is where we're going to have to get a little bit tricky. We're probably going to have to manipulate the DOM. Just give me a moment to think. Let's just worry about getting our blur class loaded into this guy. Let's just worry about that for right now. So if sensitive file name includes a file name, then what we need to do is we need to pretty much, let's see what we're working with right now. I mean, we've got this editor instance, but I don't know what it does. So let's throw a debugger right here and let's reload. And remember, evaluate tabs right now is only going to open when I open a new env file. So you see it's disabled right now, but let's enable it and let's open .env. Oh, look at this. We got plenty of errors going on right here. What's going on? Cannot read property includes of undefined. Okay, well then what we have is something that isn't sensitive file names. Let's see. Oh, colon. Stop. Trying to think actually, because now actually everywhere there's a colon. It should just be a dot. Wow, look at that. Learn stuff all the time. Colon is when you're trying to call a function. Dot is when you're referencing a key in the config. So my bad about that. That's a typo all across the board. Anyway, stuff like that happens. So let's reload the page. I make mistakes. Don't matter. Everybody's human. Okay. So let's enable our package. Close env. Open it. And look at that. We got a debugger. Okay. So let's see if we can find out how the heck to manipulate this DOM. So I know we've got an editor object, and it's a big guy. Let's see if there's any just straight up. Oh, look right there. I can already see. There's something right there. Is there just an element? Is that something we can call? We actually might be able to look at that. We can call element. That's like a native JavaScript prototype thing. So let's just call editor element. Oh, well, that was easy. Well, look at that. It has a class of editor, and I bet you my bottom dollar that if we apply our blur class next to editor, because if we get rid of editor, it's going to delete our entire view because this is some Atom specific class. So what we need to do is actually append at our blur class to editor. So let's just get the class list right now. Editor element, and you can just do class list, and you can see it returns actually an array. The 0th element is editor, its value is editor. We're trying to hit up that value, so class list value editor. We could do add, but that won't actually apply the class. We actually want to change the value. So this is actually what we're looking for right now. Let's see. We're just going to do probably a let right here. We can do a var or a let. It really doesn't matter. Let's just be consistent, but a var. And let's do a class list. And that's going to be equal to the value of whatever the element is, whatever the editor's class is currently equal to. And what we want to do is just do edit. We actually want to take this value again and set it equal to, actually we can just be fancy here and do class list. We're going to see if templating works. And then we want to do plus, and we want to probably do our blur class. Well, actually, it's technically a level because we have 3 different levels of blur. So what I'm doing right here is this is called string templating. In ES6, you're allowed to do this now. And any browser should be able to handle it. And the way it works is like, let's say we have a string. Well, actually, let's call it a value. And let's say we have a value and it's equal to a string called dream. Okay? So we have a value called dream. That means that if I were to print out a string and I do a backtick and I say I have a, and I do a $, open curly brace, close curly brace, backtick. So backtick to backtick is the template, and it can span multiple lines. And if I want to put value here, console log says I have a dream. It took a variable that was in the same name, that was in the same space, and filled it with the filled it in the string and turned it into a string. It's a really nice feature, because if anybody has had to work on anything that's really older than ES6, it was pretty much like if you wanted to do string concatenation, you were doing plus sign, you know, and it was just like it'd be plus a space. So it'd be like, instead, in the way you would write this in old JavaScript would be I have a, and then you would do plus, and you can add space here actually, and you could do value. And you can see that it does the exact same operation. I have a dream and I have a dream. They're the exact same operation. This was a console log, so it doesn't look like a string. But you can see, like, in this, imagine if you had a bunch of variables to insert into a string. It's plus this, plus a space, because if you don't put a space, you'll have a problem, because the word will be butted up right next to the other value. And it's just like, it becomes a mess extremely quickly. String templating is awesome, and I use it very often. So back to the task at hand. We actually need to get the blur level, which we already know what it is because we have a blur class. We have our class list. We also have our class. So what we want to do is figure out what we're going to get our value that's specified, which, since we haven't changed it or give the ability to change, stream sensor low. So we're going to take our blur class and we're going to do const blur level. And this reads it at the time this function executes. So we're going to do config get stream sensor dot blur class. Now we have our blur class, and our blur class is going to return some type of string without the period, and it's going to be stream sensor low. For now, it'll be stream sensor low. So actually, we should be good. So let's see. Right now, if the package is off, we don't do anything. We just actually exit out of this function immediately. But if the package is on, then we're going to actually look at all the current text editors, even the one we just opened, because we call it on the did open event. And we're going to get the file name that's open. We're going to get every one of them. We're going to go through every single text editor. We're going to get the file name. We're going to load in our sensitive files. We're going to get our our current blur level. We're going to check, is the file that our file is named in the sensitive files array? And if it is, we should get the current class of the object, of the actual DOM element, get its class value, which is editor, and then just append our blur level to it, whatever our blur level might be. So that is pretty much it. Oh, I'm trying to think. We need a way to remove our class, because let's see, this will, if our file name is in file list. Okay, but we don't have a way to actually remove it, because let's say that we're on our view. Let's say that we're on our view like this. I'm gonna blur the class, but when I disable it, it won't remove our class, and that would actually be more frustrating. So let's see. Oh, I pressed the wrong thing. Oh. Okay, so we're disabled now, and then we want to enable it, and so we're enabled, and we're gonna open up the file. Oh wow, you guys can't read that, I bet, but I know that the $signs right there, I can clearly see it on my monitor. So, but the problem is now if I press Ctrl-Alt-O and turn off, my file's still blurred. And the only way for me to cure that is to close it and open it back up. I thought, oh no, because we call it on the did open thing. We call it on, what is it? Where did we? I remember on the observe. We call it on observe text editors, not get text editors. So that's past, present, and future. So we reopened our text editor that was blurred, which means that it cached it. So when we opened it again, it was still blurred, even though we're disabled. That's annoying. So what we should do is we should actually, let's expand this function, because if our package is disabled, well, then yeah, if our package is disabled, we need to return true. But before we do anything, we need to remove classes, remove any blur classes from text editor. And this is actually going to be kind of easy. It's going to be a little bit of manipulation, but it's actually kind of the same as down here. So we're actually going to get the class list, which we know this time is going to be something like, it's going to be like editor, and then it'll be just a space, and then it'll be stream censor low. Like, for example, this is what it'll look like. So this is the value that we're going to get back because we appended a class down here. So if it's still active, we're going to have editor and stream censor low. What we can do actually is let's get our blur classes back in. Actually, we don't even have them loaded in. Blur class, we need our blur classes. So easiest way to do that, let's just take this because, you know, save some time rewriting it, and we'll call it blur classes. The reason this is a const and this is a var is because actually we're probably gonna, yeah, no, we're gonna well, no, we don't have to. We can make this a const. Actually, we're not going to change this value. We're going to assign editor classlist value to a different object, but we're not changing the value of class list itself, so we can have that. And we want to have this be blur class list. Okay, so we get an array back that we defined up here, which is this, because it's the default value. There you go. So we got an array back. So now we have our class, which is a string, separated by spaces, because in CSS, a class cannot contain a space. It can either be hyphenated or underscored, but it cannot have a space. A space between classes are two totally distinct classes. So don't ever name your CSS classes with spaces. The next thing we want to do is, actually, this is kind of cool. Let's just run a debugger right here, and we can go through it in the console. So what we want to do is we want to enable our package, open this up, blur our file so our package gets blurred. Now what we want to do is we just want to disable our package, which when we call toggle again, well, not toggle, when we call onDidOpen, it'll reevaluate our tabs. So we're going to disable it, we're going to close it, and we're going to do onDidOpen. Let's see. Oh, you know what? It's probably not going to work because evaluate tabs won't work. Let's see. Yeah, it's gonna be hard to show. You know what? Let's add this to every time we change our status. Now we'll be evaluating tabs every time our status changes, which is actually probably what we want to be doing, because if a tab is already open, we want to evaluate it, and especially if we were turning on or turning off. If we were doing either of those things, which is really the only two options we have, we want to evaluate the tabs that are open. That's it. That's the situation. So what we should do actually is, watch, I'm gonna keep this file open. Let's control it, and look at that, I blurred it right on command. All I didn't open it or close it. And let's do it again, and let's see. Okay, so we got editor is not defined, so it's thrown from the package stream censor line 91. Let's see what we're doing bad. Editor. Oh, you know what? We don't have editor available. We have to move this entire function into here. So you know what we can do actually? Let's take these, load them into here, and let's have an if state. Let's move this if statement into here to where if the package is active, take this. So if the package is active, we'll apply our blur, and if it's not, because we need access to this editor guy, we're not going to, reinvent the wheel up there just because we were too lazy to move it to the right place. We get rid of this return true now. Okay. There we go. Now we're all good. So blur active tabs and blur new tab. That's what this comment should say. So you can see now we have the editor available. So that means that this line will succeed, and we can actually get to the debugger this time. So let's reload it. And if the package status is false, which means we just disabled it, then we're going to run this list. And so let's see, we actually might disable first. Yeah, it disabled first, and let's just see what we got. And it should just say editor. Actually, it doesn't say anything. Let's see, editor dot element class list. It says is focused, and let's see value. Yeah, okay, there we go. I don't know why that. Why the heck is that undefined? Did I type it in wrong? Nope, it's correct. Whatever. I think there's a var. I don't like having const not at the top of a function declaration. It's just it's a personal preference, to be completely honest, but that's just not something I like. But right now you can see that actually our blurred function isn't even in here, so actually let's just go through that, re-enable our function, which, look at that, blurred our content, and now if we disable it, we should hit the debugger again. And if we do value, you can see we have stream sensor medium. Why is stream sensor medium our default? Did I? Stream sensor low is our default value. Let's see what's going on there. File, settings, packages, stream sensor settings. Look at that. Blur class. Our blur class is set to medium for some reason, even though we enabled it. Anyway, whatever. Okay. It probably is because I had the old one open, and that probably saved my setting because the packages are named the same. So anyway. Okay, you can see that we get our value back. So if we go to class list, yeah, it's just it's because it wasn't. It's because I defined it as a constant. So anyway, here, let's just reload the package, get this working again. Okay, so we disabled it. Class list is a string, and each of these is a unique class, is focused, and stream sensor low. All of these are a unique class. So actually what you can do is split it, and we can split it on spaces. And now look, we got an array, and now what we need to do is filter out any objects that also exist in our blur classes. So we've got blur classes available, I believe. Not Bluetooth. Look at that, we got blur class available. So what we need to do is actually something that's kind of fun. Let's just say class list is equal to class list.split, because I want class list to be equal to an array. So what we can do is actually you can call in ES6 a function called a filter, and filter will return a brand new array of any objects that don't fit some kind of condition. So if we do a class list and we call it filter, and we go element, or yeah, I'll spell it out, element, and then we do an arrow function, and then if we do the blur classes, oh, whoops. If we do the blur classes include, this will iterate over every single item in the class list array and apply this condition that we're writing right here. Includes element. So if the blur class includes the element, so yeah, if our class list for blur classes includes the element that we're iterating over right now, then what we want to do is actually probably trash that. Yeah, we actually, so if our item isn't, because what we're looking for is items that are not in our blur class list, not the ones that are, because otherwise we're just going to get our blur class back, and that's just useless. We want to get the items that are not in our blur class list, so we would do that, and then what we're going to wind up with is an array of editor and is focused, but we need to convert that back to a string because we need to set it equal to the class list value. So you can just call the join the same way we broke it apart. We'll join them with a space. And now look at that. We efficiently edited out our list. Let's actually just copy that line of JavaScript right there. And let's do updated class list. There you go. It can be equal to that one-liner function. Pretty cool, right? And then the last thing we need to do is we don't even need a template for this. We can actually just set it to a single value. There we go. Cool. I'm happy. I'm happy with this. Let's see what we got. Let's see. We go to packages, settings. Enabled is false. Yeah, so we're starting off false. I was just wondering why maybe it was giving us that. But anyway, okay, we're gonna close this guy. Control Shift F5 to refresh everything. And now, if let's say we open up an env and I'm live streaming. Oh no, I look like an idiot. Oh my god, I just showed you all my keys. Let's say I kept it open. Oh no, just very quickly Alt Control O. Oh, haha, you cannot change it now. You cannot see what I was typing. And right now, we're not even changing blur levels. This is blur level low. And let's say, okay, I'm done live streaming. I want to just take off this package. Alt Control O. Oh no, class list filter is not a function. Oh, you know what? You know why? Because I'm a dummy. Because we got to get the value and then we got to split it. I called it in the JavaScript console, but I didn't put it to the value. Alright, redo that role playing. I'm just live streaming. Hey, how's everybody doing? Oh no, my keys. Alt Control O. It disabled it. Whoops. Okay, enabled it. Now let's disable it. Oh wow, look at that. Blur. No. It's like a really bad eye exam. There you go. Cool. So that's awesome. So what we should do now is we should actually see. Oh, that's awesome. I'm so happy about this. Okay, awesome. All right, we're missing one other functionality that we described in the very beginning, and that is increasing or decreasing our blur status, because we have a blur class, but I'm on stream sensor low. Let's say I just with the click of a menu item or even a keyboard shortcut, I want to increase my blur, or I want to decrease my blur. How do we do that? Well, the first thing that I think we should do is probably add it to the menu. So we've got a sub menu. Let's do this. Oh, before we get in trouble, add a comma, and add a comma, and add a comma. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to say increase blur, and we'll do decrease blur. And we should call two functions here. We're going to call increase blur. Now remember, right now we don't have any functions called increase or decrease blur, and we also are going to need to register them. So here we go. Comma. The only reason I know it's a comma is because this is an object, so all of these values need to be comma separated. And here we've got increase blur and decrease blur, and actually these functions are going to be named the same thing as the guy that calls them, so just make our lives easier. And actually, you know what? I'm talking about dry and keep it simple stupid. We should actually just have change blur and just pass in a value of increase or decrease. I'm gonna leave that to you guys. Or you know what? There's a lot of other ways that we can build on this flow projects for y'all to build on and pull requests against this. So you know what? We're just gonna call this change blur, and we're gonna have a value. And it'll be a string, and we'll call this change blur. Now notice we don't have to change these because these are just, you know, references. Increase blur is going to call change blur. Decrease blur is going to call change blur. But the secret secret sauce is going to be, we're going to pass a value called increase, or we're going to pass a value called decrease, because I don't want to be talking to you guys about, don't repeat yourself, blah, 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 when I'm about to write a function that can easily be condensed into one function that's passed by a value. So, practice what you preach, that kind of stuff. So what we need to do is, let's see, how do we, let's think about this. Okay, so we have a blur that is probably already available, and I think all we need to do is get the current setting of the blur and get the list, and then see where we are in our blur class. Are we at index 0, 1, or 2? Because there's only 3 values in JavaScript 0-based index. So we're at either 0, 1, or 2. If we're at 2 and we choose increase, we should tell them we're at max blur. If they're at 0 and they choose decrease, we should tell them that you can't go any lower. So what we need to do is, let's get the current blur, and we're going to have that equal to atom config get string. I've typed this 1,000 times, still can't type it right. Blur level. Blur level, that's what we're calling it, right? Is that what it's called? Is that what we called it? No, it's blur class, not blur level. Yeah, blur class. Okay. And then we have var, and we'll do available blurs, which is kind of a funny thing to say. And we're going to do get, and we're going to get this guy, except we're going to get the blur class list. All right, so now we've got our current setting and we've got our available setting, and now we need to check basically where we are, like what is our index in the array. So this is going to return a 0, 1, or 2. This is pretty much going to find out out of this array, are we this guy, or this guy? And they'll always be ordered this way. So we're either going to be 0, 1, or 2. And if we're 0, we know we can go up 2. And if we're 2, we know we can go down 2. If you're in the middle, you can go up or down. We're just going to pretty much map around with this array. And there's actually probably a better way of doing what I'm about to what I'm thinking about doing. But let's just do this. If the available blur, which is an array, if the available blurs, we want to get out of the available blurs, we want to get the index of the current blur. And so this value should return an int. Should return a positive int. And if this guy returns a -1, that means false. But I know, because of our program, this probably isn't good practice. This might be something that maybe you should code in, is preventing any other values from being read. Pretty much basically check and make sure our index is even a valid one. Because this function will return -1 if this guy isn't in this guy. So that's just something to think about. So what we want to do is probably 2 conditions, because we have a value. So if value is equal, but you can just make value a, let me do a 3 equal, because it's content and type. So we want to make sure that value is equal to the string of increase, and also that the type of it is a string. So that's what the triple equal does. Double equal and triple equal are not the same thing, so they're unequal. Anyway, if they passed in the value of increase, we also, I mean, you could just put an else here, but for just keep things a little verbose so everyone's on the same page, if the value is equal to decrease, just so if people are just jumping in or hopping around the video, they know what we're doing right here. And basically, we're going to have to run 2 kind of conditions. Basically, if we are increasing, let's think about it. If we're increasing and our index, the index we're on, is less than 2, which is pretty much the length of our array -1. So if you weren't sure in JavaScript, if you have an array, let's paste one. So A is equal to this array. So A0 is stream sensor low, and A2 is the last element in the array. But funny enough, if you call A length, you get a real number of 3. So if you want to iterate over this array and you say it's just less than a length, you're actually going to wind up outside of the array, because if you do a3, it's undefined. So what you actually have to do is a.length minus 1, and now you get the last element in the array. And that's pretty much what we're going to be doing right here. So, all right. So if the index is less than the available blur's length minus 1, this is where we are going to want to change our blur class to whatever the text needs to be. Stream sensor low, stream sensor mid, stream sensor high. So what we can do is we can just say atom.config set. We want to call it set this time, and we're going to get stream blur class. Stream sensor blur class is going to be equal to available blurs index minus 1. Because, I'm sorry, minus 1, what am I talking about? Plus 1. Because we want to get the index that we were at, where our current blur was at, and add 1. And we know that we can safely do that because our index is less than that. Now, we probably also want to notify them. Where are our notifications? We did them earlier. Here we go. Let's see if this is an icon. I don't even know if it's an icon. But let's say stream sensor blur increased. There we go. And you know what? We can look up octacons or whatever the heck they're called. Here we go. Octa icons. Where's an up arrow? There's an up arrow. Here's an up arrow. Oh, it's just called arrow up. Okay, well, let's take that because I want to use that for our, there we go, arrow up. Okay, and now here's the thing, we need to also stop them, because if this condition's false, we're at the end of the array. And this is also good because this code will be scalable, so we actually want to send them a little notification with, I don't know, some kind of warning, I guess. What's a warning that we can use? It's pretty good. It's typically pretty good. I mean, this is a classic alert. Yeah, let's just do alert. I think the classic one's info. What does info look like? Oh, okay, so that's what info looks like. No, let's do alert. Sorry, thought I had to sneeze. Hate when that happens. Anyway, we're going to say stream sensor is at maximum blur. Okay, cool. And if the values decrease, we can actually, if the value is decreasing, we can literally just probably do the same statement, but we actually have to make sure that index is greater than 0. If the index is greater than 0, not equal to it, because if it's equal to it, we're going to wind up subtracting, and the index is less than or equal to, because we can be at the end of the array and still subtract 1. So if it's greater than 0, but not equal to, because if it's equal to 0, we're about to subtract 1, and that's going to be a problem. So we can do stream sensor blur decrease, and we can also do minimum blur. And you know what we should do at the end of this? Try to evaluate tabs. We're not going to be able to call this function though from in here. I wonder if we can pass it in. That'd be nice. Let's see. I have no idea if this is going to work. That'd be kind of nice if it does though. Okay, so regardless of whatever happens, increase or decrease, we should evaluate tabs. I have no idea if this is going to work. Okay, so what we're going to do is we have a env open. Let's see what our settings at. Okay, we're enabled, and let's say we want to increase our blur. Look at that, that didn't work out. Stream sensor 98, this.package status is not a function. Let's see. What I do? Stream sensor line 98. That's way up there. Oh, you know what? Let's see if we can. I mean, we're about to see if we can pass in statuses. So, yeah, because this isn't made available, and the only way the way to get around this is just to do call atom config get if enabled. But let's see. Line 98 is not, so this is on evaluate tabs. Oh, which means our function in here did run. That's pretty nice. Okay. You can pass it in. Yeah, we can pass it in there. Package status. And then what we can do is just take this, pass it into there, and then just do we can do, okay, because this will actually function otherwise. Let's see what implication this has on the project. We're about to find out. And if it does work, I'll explain it more in depth. Yeah, I didn't think that would work because everywhere else that evaluate tabs exists, we don't call in package status. So what we could do is actually have this package status or package status. So this is how this is going to work. Evaluate tabs has an optional function that if you don't pass in anything will be equal to null. So what we do is on these functions, when we don't need to pass in this the package status function because it's available to us, we don't pass in anything, and the variable here gets just set to null right off the bat. Then when we do this conditional, we check if the function is available or if package status is available, and actually ORs exit on the first true condition. So since we have a variable available right here and it's just set equal to null, on this kind of execution, this will be false, but this will be whatever the right value, and because null is false. But on these kind of executions, if the package status is true, which means the variable is actually set to a function, then this will execute, and if it gives us the right value, it should exit out. So because otherwise what's going to happen here is we would pass in nothing, and it would on these executions we would pass in something, but this .package status isn't available, so it would error out on the first one. So we actually want to kind of design for that. Let's see. Oh, 98 package status is not a function. That's probably because you know what? We're just going to do this the hard way because this is going to complicate our code and make it muddy. I just don't feel like this is a good idea. Something about it just says no. Best way to do this. You're just trying to optimize stuff right now while we're going through it. That's literally all we're trying to do. So we can call evaluate tabs, but the problem is that when we call evaluate tabs, we will not have this function available. So evaluate tabs actually might not be a good, this actually might not be a good place to evaluate tabs, but it'd be nice if every time we change the blur it dynamically did that. But let's see, what's the best way we can go about doing this? Take a little drink, see what happens. So what we want to do is have it to where when we change blur, anything that happens, we will get evaluate tab. We'll be able to re-evaluate the tabs. Problem with evaluate tabs is we can call all of this stuff, but this .package status is really getting us right now. So you know what we could do is have a var up here, or a const really, that is a variable called package status that is equal to this dot package status is let's see. Yeah, that dot package status, and if it so if it does exist, then we want to do this dot package status, get the actual variable. Otherwise, what we want to do is get add a config get stream censor is enabled. So we'll get it the easy way or the hard way. If it's available, we'll use the function. If it's not, it's not. But regardless of whatever happens, we're getting the package status. And that's an easy way to do it. We can actually just kind of dump the function and actually just put that right there, which actually is a little bit more readable. So, or even better, just do that and then just pass in this. Yeah, this is a good way of doing it. I sound so defeated right now because I really wish there was a smarter way we could have done it, but what we did isn't bad actually. I mean, evaluate tabs, this function doesn't have scope when we call this in this context. So that's just the way it is. But let's see if it works, more importantly, because if it doesn't, we're gonna have more troubleshooting to do. But this will just be nice. So let's see. We're gonna enable. Okay, so we're disabled. That's fine. Let's make this go away. Go away. Okay, we're gonna enable. We're blurred. We're gonna disable. We're unblurred. We're gonna enable. We're blurred. Let's close all these. Now, so we only have toggle in our context menu. We can add it, but I'm just gonna keep it in the menu. Increase blur. Oh yeah, look at that. That's excellent. Oh, we're already at maximum blur. Oh no. Stream sensor, decrease blur. Stream sensor, decrease blur. Does it seem to be decreasing? I'm not so sure it is. I feel like, let's see what our settings are at. I feel like decrease blur isn't doing anything. Settings. Oh no, it says we're on low. Okay, so my low is just really blurred, I guess. Let me see. No, because that definitely didn't work. So let's see, decrease blur. Okay, so we're definitely at minimum blur, but let's go up one blur because I think we have a bug. So we should be at medium blur, which I can tell visually that we are. If we go to decrease blur, oh yeah, that didn't help us at all. It didn't apply our decrease. What the heck? If the value is equal to decrease, which I'm guessing we spelled it right, and it shoots the value. So if index is greater than 0, which it would be 1, and the index is less than or equal to the length of 1, I wonder why it's not setting our blur class. What the heck, man? Add on config set available blurs index 1. And then we call evaluate tabs. And evaluate tabs should give us our blur level. Let's see. Let's get our blur level. So when we enable this, we get stream sensor low, and we're on low, and that's fine. So let's go to increase stream sensor medium, and then let's go back to low. And it says we're on low, but it didn't apply the class, and I wonder if it is because, oh, you know what it is? I bet you we're not, when we do, oh yeah, I know what's happening. When we get this value, we're just taking the class, but we're not removing any other classes that we're not filtering out all the other classes that might have existed when we increased. Because if there's a, I can probably write, no, I might be able to do this. I bet you that we have two classes. We have stream sensor low and medium both applied to this Atom text editor. Oh, look at that. You see right there. Editor, stream sensor low, and stream sensor medium. Our code is working too well because we're just applying class after class after class and not filtering anything out. So what we want to do is we actually want to use this guy to do, we actually want to take these values want to split them like we did before, and we want to get the updated class list, or we can call it modified. The modified class list, and we want to filter out all of our blur classes that are in our class list, and then we want to join them back as a string. This will remove all of the classes that might already exist. It won't remove classes that are there but aren't in our blur class list. And then instead of class list, we'll do modified class list, and then apply our new blur level. Now this will work. Look at that. It's stuff like that. You know, you get excited about stuff like that because you figure out these cool little problems. So it's disabled, enabled. Okay, so we're enabled, and let's go to a stream sensor, increase blur. We've increased our blur, and I know we're on medium. Stream sensor, increase blur. Now we're super blurred, like Ray Charles can't. I look like Ray Charles trying to look at my ENVs. Decrease, up. I know we stepped down. Decrease, I know we stepped down again, and now I can edit this stuff, but you have no idea what I'm typing. But if I do this, whoa, you can see what I typed. So sorry about this getting in the way. We can close that now. Look at that. And that right there, everybody, is building a actual functional list right there. That is actually building a functional stream package for Atom. This is all the code we wrote. All this code will be on GitHub for everyone to enjoy. I will. It'll be posted on the link for the YouTube video, and you know, everything will be filled out. So that will. That's pretty much everything, guys. I mean, we've really done some really cool stuff today. I mean, we pretty much made a freaking package. Like, we made a package for Atom, and you know, there's an unlimited amount of opportunity that you can do with this. I mean, if you need to reach out to a third-party API like, you know, Twitter or Facebook or YouTube or whatever you're doing in Atom, like, if you can do it in JavaScript, you can do it in these extensions, and that to me is amazing. It unlocks a huge amount of opportunity and potential. So you may be wondering, okay, what can we do to build on this? What's a task for you maybe to build onto this? Well, that's actually not that hard to think of. I can think of one right off the bat. So we have our default files here. It would be kind of cool if I could open up any file at all, like a less file. I could right click and go to add to censoring, which basically means any file that ends, or how about this, any file that directly matches this file name that I just right clicked and added, it will automatically get blurred too, and the blur will be applied to it. That would be a really, really cool enhancement of this file. And also, you should have an option, if you're going to add file, to remove file from stream sensor. Two things just to think about. These are enhancements that I encourage you to make greatly. If you need any help or direction with doing it, be glad to help, or even make another stream or video on how to build upon this feature. But either way, this feature actually, as it stands right now, is published on Atom for anyone to use if you just like the way that we've done things today. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell, guys. That's everything. We have built a full-fledged feature today. So thank you guys for joining me, and if you like the stream, I encourage you to subscribe. I mean, we're going to be doing stuff like this. Usually we're doing Reddit posts, people asking for help that way, but you know, whatever. Today it seems like people don't really need help on Reddit right now, so that's just the way it is. Some weeks it's like that, but either way, what we're doing right now is, you know, I mean, we're done. Actually, we're done. So like and subscribe if you're watching the YouTube video. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you are active on Twitch and like to watch this stuff happen as it unfolds. Either way, I'd be happy if you guys joined me in either context. And that's it for Let's Build, and I'll see you guys next time. If you have any questions, leave them in the feed or in a comment, and I'll be sure to get back to you. Thanks.